The Maine People Podcast, available everywhere. Click subscribe so you never miss an episode. Time to say welcome again to the Maine People Podcast. Stories of people from the state of Maine. Some are famous, some are not famous, some are infamous. Maybe that's you, Cumberland County Sheriff Kevin Joyce. Thanks for joining me on the Maine People Podcast. I really appreciate you taking some time. I know you're a very busy man.
Thanks for having me. I'm not sure that I meet any of that criteria, but we'll go forward anyway.
Well, maybe you'll be infamous by the time we're done. I found this video. This is a reason why people don't think of the sheriff of Cumberland County in this respect at all. We will come back to this a little later on and find out what the story is behind this and what your musical chops are all about. Sound good?
Okay. That sounds good.
How many years now as sheriff in Cumberland County?
I just finished my 12th. I'm starting my 13th year.
Man, you are a huge part in what makes this such a great place to live. Did you ever see yourself maybe doing the same job anywhere else?
I didn't. My parents wanted me to either be an attorney or a doctor, and I failed them on both parts. I did explore the potential of being a musician, but I really wasn't that great. And then, one day I was at the University of Southern Maine, and I looked out and I saw a Portland police officer. It was a beautiful day. He was out, had a traffic stop. And I thought, you know what? I think I want to do a job where I can be out on beautiful days. And at the end of the semester, I applied for law enforcement at Southern Maine Technical College, and I got in, and the rest is history. I've been here going on 37 years.
Well, so local boy growing up, deciding to do this in his hometown. That's it's a pretty great story for anybody, any younger people who want to go into law enforcement. I think you're a great example for that. Of you don't have to go anywhere else to achieve your dream. You can make your dreams happen right here at home.
Yeah, I mean, I never saw myself getting into politics or getting elected. I set my degree in business administration and really set up my resume to be a police chief somewhere. But when my predecessor, Mark Dion, decided to retire, he said, you can either run for sheriff or go look for another job. And I loved the agency. I loved what we stood for. I really like working with the people in the jail. So I thought, you know what, I'll try my hand at politics. So I really chalk it up to I'm a cop trying to be a politician as opposed to a politician trying to be a cop.
Take a look at this picture, because I think that your smile in this St. Patty's Day parade photo really shows like you're a man who just really enjoys what you're doing, saying hi to the kids, walking down the street in the St. Patrick's Day parade. And I think you would probably agree with me that you just, as you said, you just enjoy what you're doing and kind of love it and live it here in the state of Maine.
Yeah, I really like serving the people. And this is some of the better times of my career, really, is going out and interacting with people in a non-confrontational atmosphere. In 2020, when we saw a lot of social justice issues, it became really apparent to me that we as law enforcement officers need to reach out better to kids and to teenagers. So I made that my vision, if you will, that parades are important. We can do all the other stuff that law enforcement officers do, but I often say communities can't live without police departments, and police departments can't live without the community. And that's a big part of it, is being out there and being seen and talking to people and finding out what bothers them. A lot of people don't want to even call us because they feel like they're bothering us. And my reply back is, we get paid to be bothered. I'm on duty 24 hours a day for the most part. And it's a commitment, but I love it. I feel like I got the greatest job in the world. Last 2 years have been kind of difficult, but for the most part, it's still a great job. It's still a great career, and I would do it over in a heartbeat.
Do you think the last 2 years in dealing with COVID and the way things maybe have changed in your department, have they changed your department and the way you handle things, and the way your perspective on things?
Well, COVID had the mass exodus of people really reevaluating their time. So, we lost a lot of people, and I think that's the hard part in a post-COVID world. Yes, we still have to worry about the outbreaks, and I've got a community of 200 inmates that we also have to worry about and make sure that they stay healthy and safe. But really, it's the staffing and and just trying to get back to doing what we did in the pre-COVID world with less staff. And that's a bit of a challenge right now. So, but we'll get through it. A lot of people that I came up through the ranks with say, "Hey, why are you hanging in there?" And I go, this is going to change. And I want to be part of that change of getting back to normal and seeing, our communities prosper and, the Cumberland County Sheriff's Office prosper as well.
And you lead by example with your attitude. It's not just words and platitudes. You really do, mean what you say, and you're, out on the street smiling in parades, but also, you're telling your staff and people that you're surrounded by that, get out there, put a smile on your face, and be representative in the community and be accessible to people. Like you said, how important that is.
Well, it's customer service. We've always promoted customer service here. Everybody that we deal with is somebody's brother, sister, mother, father, uncle. And the reality is, a lot of the people we deal with, we did some of the same things. It's just either we didn't get caught or we made a few better decisions. So, for the most part, the folks that we deal with, we just got to, be professional with them. People will always remember when you weren't professional with them, and they will always remember when you treated them like a human being that they deserve to be treated as. And, I live by that because I can't tell you how many times people will come up and say, "Hey, you probably don't remember me, but you arrested me." And it was like, yeah, I really don't remember. But they will tell you, "Thank you." And that's really, in my opinion, the height of being complimented, because taking away somebody's freedom for a period of time and making them go through the criminal justice system is a hard thing to do anyway. When they thank you for doing that's an ultimate compliment.
Is there any story you can tell where you had a profound impact on someone's life, maybe without revealing the person or the exact details of the story?
There have been a number of them. I think the one that I tell my staff, and we've had a couple of people on my staff that have been complimented for arresting somebody for something, was I was at the Freiburg Fair, and this individual came up to me, and my grandkids were with me, and my wife was with me, and this guy comes up and starts thanking me for arresting him, and I really, it was an OUI, and I didn't remember it, but the individual was kind of filling in the blanks, still didn't remember it, but he remembered me, and he said thank you because you sent me in the right direction. So afterwards, I think I was stunned, my whole family was stunned. And people remember that. So, we're always out in the public, and it's one of those things where people are always coming up, and it just makes you feel good, because there are a lot of good things that law enforcement does throughout the country, throughout the state. Unfortunately, we hear about some of the bad ones, that decisions that are made, and some of them are very bad. But I think it's good. It's the ultimate compliment to have somebody say thank you. And there are a lot of people that do that to myself and other people in our profession and our agency.
And you don't mind in your off time being approached for someone to say hello?
Oh, no. I mean, my grandkids laugh now because of the fact that we don't go anywhere with somebody coming up. And, 2 weeks ago, I drove to Vermont to pick up my oldest granddaughter, and we stopped in North Conway to pick something up. And, lo and behold, somebody came up to me, even in North Conway. And as on the way out, my granddaughter was saying, "We can't even go to New Hampshire without somebody, coming up." And, and that's a good feeling, that they feel like they can approach you. Because again, you take off the uniform. I'm an individual. The staff that work with me, my colleagues, we're all individuals. And it's not again, it's a compliment, I think.
I don't want to, go to the standard joke about cops and donuts, but I'm going to with this photo of you and Jeff Peterson from WGME, because we had an interaction, you and I did online after this photo with the donuts, because you visited Jeff, and I seem to recall you never visiting me at the studio WPOR on the morning show and bringing donuts, as our comment thread explained online. And here we are again, face to face. And there are no donuts.
No, I should have brought some donuts, some virtual donuts, so that we can send them virtually. I stand by the offer that I come into the studio. In fact, I was over there the other day, and had you been in, I probably would have gone out and got donuts. The reality is, on that particular day, We were doing drug take back, and I got up at like 0500, and Jeff's already on the air. He sends me a text going, "Hey, bring some donuts." Well, at 5 o'clock, and I got to be there at 6. Coming up with donuts is kind of difficult. So now I put it on my calendar that anytime we're at GME in the morning, I got to bring Jeff Peterson some donuts. And actually, I tell my staff, you want a donut, get it before Jeff gets it, because somehow they evaporate once it gets in his hand.
Well, maybe if Jeff ever joins me on the Maine People podcast, we'll have to talk about his obsession with the donut.
And he's a musician too. I mean, he's a trombonist. I don't know if you know that, but he's got some hidden talents as well.
I did not. I do want to talk to you, Sheriff Joyce, about your musical talents. I have another clip that we'll have coming up. It's all in the next segment coming up on the Maine People podcast.
The way my dad brought me up was always to work hard and to treat people well.
You ready to go for a ride?
We try to keep our goal to make people feel comfortable buying their cars and feel comfortable with the people they're working with.
Nice. Oh, it looks good over here.
So become part of our family. We really mean that. Without question, we're in this together.
We're going to take care of you and treat you like your family anyways.
This looks awesome.
Yankee Ford has so many people willing to help and make this tough time a little bit easier.
Radio207.com only plays original country music from Maine singers, songwriters, and bands. Streaming online and on your smart speaker. Radio207.com is on the air now. Radio207.com. Only Maine, only country music. Your next online event can be perfect thanks to virtualproductionsgroup.com. The Maine People podcast couldn't happen without them, and they can make your remote streaming event absolutely technically perfect. High quality live and pre-recorded productions for corporate events, weddings, tournaments, charities, and more with virtualproductionsgroup.com. Sheriff Kevin Joyce is my guest on the Maine People podcast. I want to thank you again for doing this and taking the time. There's a great video of you not only playing the bagpipes, but I really need to hear the story of how this came about and what this trip was all about. I know it was a few years ago. You're coming up here. This is the St. Paddy's Day Parade in London, right? 2018, maybe?
It was one of the greatest moments, at least playing bagpipes.
There you are, center screen.
Yes. Some members of our band were friends with the London Metropolitan Police Department. And they had come over and played bagpipes with us in Maine one summer. So we had always talked about going over and playing during the St. Patrick's Day Parade. So we raised money. A bunch of us went over. It was the greatest time. It was a long parade. It was a cold parade. But they rolled out the red carpet and they treated us like royalty, no pun intended, in that, we got to see some really neat things courtesy of the London Metropolitan Police Department.
As a law enforcement officer in Maine, what do you think shaped you about being from Maine that maybe would be different in the way you did your job anywhere else?
We're Maine, the way life should be. And I live by that, but I also say that times are changing. You've got to be in tune with the community that you serve. You got to realize that, even before I became sheriff, when I was a patrol deputy, Maine's a small state. Cumberland County is a small area, so you're always on the clock. People are always watching you as a patrolman or as a police officer 24 hours a day. If you're partying in the old port and you're misbehaving, people are going to see that. They're going to remember that. And the next time you try to take some enforcement action, they're going to throw that in your face. So, I think that being so small, it kind of points you in the right direction on treating people like they should be treated. We're not so big that I get lost or any of my folks get lost in the number of faces. Whereas at a big city where you've got thousands and thousands of police officers, maybe you can get away with that. So, Maine has been a great place to police. I tell people, even the people that work in Maine, we don't thankfully see a lot of the things that other police officers are seeing throughout the country. And that's a good thing, but with the way technology is, the way we can communicate and drive, some of the issues that we don't see in Maine doesn't mean that it's impossible. And I have to keep reminding people that, whatever you see on TV is happening in that area, but we're just lucky, So I think that, Maine is a great place to be a police officer. And there's a lot of appreciation by the people we serve that come out of that as well.
Our little city seems to be getting more big city day by day. So thanks to you and your men and all the other law enforcement officers, men and women who are out there, making sure that we can feel small town safe no matter how big our city gets. I know everybody appreciates that. Some of the things that you have been able to do that we've seen clips of, and this video included with Motor Booty Affair a few years ago, another one of your great musical experiences. I want to listen to it for a minute because you're not just up there for show, like I have been known to do with an occasional musical instrument to fake my way through it, but you can really play if we turn this up and listen for a second.
I think he's shot. He needs to hear you cheering for him, y'all. Blow, daddy, blow!
Are there more, Sheriff, besides the saxophone and the bagpipes that you play?
Yeah, I also play drums. Saxophone and drums through high school were my main instruments. Saxophone was the instrument, and I played in the University of Maine jazz band, the high school jazz band. I played in a couple of little bands through college. Actually, I had a skiing accident that knocked out one of my teeth in college, so I kind of cooled in on the saxophone for about 30 years. And about a month before that video, I ran into one of the people that I used to play with at the university, who's a drummer for Motor Booty. And we were talking. He said, "You playing saxophone?" I say, "I really haven't played it in about 30 years. I said, "I'm playing bagpipes now." And come to find out, I was playing bagpipes for the opening ceremony of the Maine Association of Police banquet. And he said, "Well, we're playing there. Why don't you bring a saxophone and you can play one other song?" So we decided on play that funky music. I went home and took my saxophones. I had to have them redone because sitting doesn't do great things with the pads and stuff. Mm-hmm. And in about a month, I learned the tune. And so I opened that night playing bagpipes. That's why I was wearing the kilt. And then when the band started, I played one song. I got to join them a couple years later in Bangor when they were playing at the Maine Sheriff's Association. And that particular one, I did a couple of songs. So, I appreciate Steve Noyes, who's the drummer, for really giving me an opportunity to play because it really rejuvenated, something that I really, really missed. I love the saxophone, but I've also tried to teach myself how to play piano, guitar. I struggle with those two instruments. My granddaughter really talked me into playing bagpipes because 13 years ago, she wanted to take lessons, and I really had no desire to play, but she wanted me to take lessons with her. And I said, "Yeah, I'll take lessons, but I'm not wearing the skirt." Well, about a year into it, I'm playing bagpipes. She's not, and I'm wearing the skirt.
If there were any band that you could play any instrument with, what band would it be?
I think I went to the Chicago concert in May. And, I liked Chicago back when I was in high school, but I was kind of really driven to jazz and Dixieland music, et cetera. But I think playing with Chicago would be probably the greatest thing. As far as drums, really the Eagles would be my favorite thing for the drums, but saxophone would definitely be Chicago.
Man, I think if you're playing with the band Chicago, aren't they very, very large when you kind of just sort of blend in on stage with a lot of people? Or maybe that's what you're trying to do.
Well, they're very tight. And trust me, I couldn't even, their saxophone players probably forgotten more than I know about playing the saxophone. But, they've got a horn section that's unbelievable. And the regular band is great too. So.
I struggle with any musical instrument, much like you said. I've struggled, and my kids make fun of me that I've been trying to learn how to play guitar for 20 years, and I've never learned more than 2 chords. So I understand the difficulty, but I also understand the appeal of trying. Sheriff, I was going to ask you what. Go ahead.
No, I haven't given up on it, but I've taken beginner guitar lessons through adult ed for probably 3 times now, and my wife laughs because my fingers are just like cramped up. And I'm, right stressed out. She goes, relax, relax. So that is something I'm gonna learn, but it's all about time. And probably the difference between me and being an excellent musician and a musician is the ability to put some time ahead to just practice. So amongst everything else,
maybe the lessons would be key for me too. To actually take a lesson might be a good idea. Sheriff, I was going to ask you what you love so much about being sheriff in the state of Maine, about law enforcement here, but I think your answers over the rest of this podcast have been pretty clear that you love being a servant of the people, and you love working with the people in the community that you live in, that you were elected in. So unless you had something else to add to that, I think we can take that as your total answer.
Yeah, no, I think that is my answer. I mean, I love the profession. I'm very involved with the National Sheriff's Association. I'm also involved with National Law Enforcement Accreditation in trying to move the profession along and really, make it, the profession is always changing, and we have to change with the times, and really trying to map a good pathway for the people that will replace me and some of my colleagues in the future.
Is it harder to get people involved?
It is. It is. I think the biggest challenge for us is going to be changing the mindset. I know that here in a lot of agencies, we're changing the mindset on employee mental health, basically saying that, gone are the days when I started, if something bothered you, you were considered weak and probably should not be in the profession. So you just kind of sucked it up, moved on, and went to the next call. And that has some trauma to it. So we're changing our way of doing things here at the sheriff's office, and a lot of other agencies as well, is saying that that's out the door. It's okay if things bother you. Because again, as I said earlier, when I take out the uniform is just, a uniform. We are individuals and things bother us. And one of the things we don't know is what point is something going to bother us that it's really going to make us say, you know what, I'm done. I want to get out of law enforcement. And we're starting to see that. So, and then the other thing is the newer kids coming out of college and high school, they want the family balance. A lot of the people in my generation gave up a lot of Christmases and holidays and birthdays and concerts and stuff like that because you did the job, and that's changed. So we've got to be flexible to make sure that individuals who want that time, because there's no do-overs, get the time. The other thing is a lot of weekends. There's a way we can change the scheduling so that, people get part of the weekend. I think we're going to be better off. Our Achilles heel is we're expected out 7 days a week, 365. So there are going to be holidays and weekends and all that other stuff, but it's up to us to try to figure out how do we meet the standard for the generation that's coming into law enforcement and make it attractive, because that's the problem. We have to attract people. And that's a lot of work in the last 2 years to attract people to this profession.
If you had made a different choice all those years ago, what do you think you'd be doing now if you weren't doing this? To borrow a line from a Luke Combs song.
I'd like to think I was a musician, but again, I think the reality was that I wasn't good enough for that. So maybe a music teacher, but there are times when I see what teachers go through and stuff, and I think, man, I've got a lot easier in my career than a teacher does. They have their hands full sometimes. So I think something to do with music, and that's nothing to say that when I retire I can't get into it. I've had some great opportunities, and it's been good because you can sit and practice and practice and practice, but unless you can get out there and perform, that's when you realize all that practicing was worth it.
Well, thank you for taking the time to do this with me for the Maine People podcast and giving us a little inside look of maybe the things we didn't know about our Cumberland County Sheriff. So we really appreciate you and what you do on a daily basis and for spending this 20 minutes with us today. Thanks so much.
It's an honor and a privilege. And John, like I said, if you want some donuts, let's go on the show and talk about what's going on your show, and I'll bring some donuts in. And
that sounds good. You are welcome on the radio anytime.
Okay. Sounds good.
The Maine People Podcast, available everywhere. Click subscribe so you never miss an episode.